It's such a nice time. I know. Yeah.
That's a question for me.
All of that. Yeah.
That's.
It's your warning. Mine's not that long.
I needed that. I have to leave my phone.
What? Should we call it perfect?
No, right?
Just think about when they go in the dark and
I like that.
I don't think I want to go to the dark. What about that? Sunday is like awesome.
I'm ready.
Just glad you don't live in town. Like,
hey,
again, watching that happen, I get ready. So, falling from place. Couple weeks.
Scared.
Permafrost has anything for us. So Some of the things. That's it's gas down.
Stop.
So a lot more. Yeah, sure. So at the end, you show me this, what it says to us. That's the one that. So does anybody have what or if you think of these extra, I didn't watch them.
I got 7 p.m. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please call roll.
Counselor Irvin, Counselor Hink, Counselor Lammerman, Counselor Merida, Counselor Settlemeyer, Counselor Wilson, Mayor Soulsby.
Topic this evening. So we are very close to having to adopt a budget for the upcoming fiscal year. And this is an, I guess, atypical year in that we have more constraints than we've had in previous years. So that means decisions have to be made, which is why it's so important to hear from the constituents and residents here of what is important. We want to do a bit of education. So Mr. Merida will kind of give us an overview of the city budget, kind of the different funds, I presume, and then what we're up against. And then we'll have a time to be able to go around as council members and kind of give our impressions of the budget and how we're conceptualizing the future and how we make decisions financially for the city. And then we would love to hear from you guys. And of course, we haven't adopted this budget yet. That's an upcoming meeting. So we really hope to be able to consider the comments and input for that process. And with that, I will turn it over to Councilor Merida.
Thank you, Councilor Irvin, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I gave you some visuals and I will get to those in a minute. Got too many props here as usual. So a little bit of budget basics. We operate on a fiscal year, so it goes from July 1st until January 3rd, June 30th. So we're wrapping up our 24-25 fiscal year. So the adopted budget will kick in on July 1st when it's adopted, if it's adopted. I guess by law, we have to adopt it by June 30th. So our total budget approved by the Budget Committee is $47,005,783. That's $8.5 million less than last year. The budgets can fluctuate due to various projects. So I'm pretty sure the last year's budget, the reason it was larger, reflected the EDA grants. Oregon budget law dictates much of how we do our budgeting. There's a lot of policies. I'm just going to hit on a few of them. Personnel, under personnel, you must honor the union and association agreements and try to keep your salaries not too competitive with other cities, so they're not poaching each other. Capital outlays are considered case by case. So if you're going to spend money on equipment or projects, current operating revenues must be sufficient to cover all the appropriations, and the fund should not exceed that amount. So don't spend more than you got. Debts or bonds are not allowed to fund non-capital projects. So you can't run a bond to run the various departments in the city. That's for building stuff. It must be balanced. All the funds of money coming in have to equal what's going out. The ending fund balance has to be within 5% of the total of the budget. Fees are to be used in lieu of ad valorem taxes whenever possible. So if you can identify a service that you're receiving as a citizen, that if it's just you getting it, it should be covered by a fee. It shouldn't be everybody else paying for your particular service. So some examples of that are your utility fee, our permitting fees, and those are some examples where they're supposed to pay for it. Also, like using the armory, it should, as much as possible, cover whatever cost we can. The unappropriated ending fund balance should be 5% of the operating budget, and there should be a contingency fund to cover whatever emergencies pop up. So I'm going to attempt to clear up some misconceptions. The primary source of income that you give to the city is through property tax. And that of your property tax bill, no, we don't get it all. We get 40.5% of your property tax bill. So if you're thinking all that money comes to us, no, it doesn't. Your property tax bill accounts for 13% of our overall revenues. So if you're looking on your little visual, that's on the revenue side, that's the red triangle. So that's all, it seems like a lot when you write that check, but as far as our overall budget, it's not a lot. So, I just happen to have my property tax bill, the South Lane School District, the Lane Education Service, the Lane Community College, they get a fair share. Looks to me, I'm guessing about 30%, 35%. Then the Lane County 4-H, the Lane County Parks Local Option, Lane County Public Safety, Lane County gets a nice chunk. South Lane Fire District and Upper Willamette Soil and Water. So the total educational portion of my bill is $800 versus a government portion is $1,500. Oh, and there's a South Lane School District bond and to pay for the Harrison School rebuild and the Lane County Community College bond. So that adds another 200 and some odd 80 bills to my property tax. All right. So property taxes. In the past, we were a levy-based system. So all the governmental agencies would submit their budget to the tax assessor. The tax assessor would decide what portion, what would they need to, what assessed value would they need, what rate would they need to apply to their assessed values to generate this amount. And one problem with that system, although it worked very well for the agencies, is the tax bills would fluctuate fairly frequently. So you never knew what your tax bill was going to be. Because if the rates went up or the property values changed significantly, it was kind of wild. So measures 5 and 50 sought to address that. And so those were two different measures. And what happened was they froze the assessed value at a set value, and they said you cannot increase it more than 3% per year. So you get a figure like this. You get a nice straight fixed income. So each year your property bill increases by 3%, unless you do a major rebuild on your house and it gets reassessed. But otherwise, the assessed values increases by 3% per year. This is the market value, estimated market value, and this is my poor little house. And I would be very shocked if someone gave me $375,000 for it, but that's what they say it's worth. And this has actually affected me because my property values, according to the market, it caused my homeowners to increase dramatically, like $400 one year. And I was like, what? And they go, well, your property values increase. And I said, but as far as taxable income, it increases 3% per year. So that locks us into a fixed income about this from this source of income. So this is also kind of reflecting of the overall costs. They have exceeded far more than 3%. And so we're like facing a fixed income with a wildly increasing cost. So our gap, just like the income between the assessed value and the market value, are increasing in our city budget. All right. Where was I? Oh, yes. So that again brings us to our projected incomes don't cover all our costs because the cost of increases more than what we anticipated for when budgeted. And this has created a difference. And so the budget committee asked, while they knew we were under a deadline to approve the budget, they did it with a caveat saying that, hey, this is not okay. We don't really want to sign off on this budget, but we understand we have to comply with law. We have to pass it, but we want you to come back. And so they recommended that the city council make a proposal to the city manager that they reduce this gap at their discretion. The city management reduce the gap of funding by 1/3 in this next fiscal year. And so the council is yet to act on this, but I feel fairly sure that we got the message and will enact this in our next business or soon in our business meetings to codify this request of the budget committee. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about our roads, because I know that's a concern. In our budget, there's a street maintenance fund, and there's two sources of income that we get. One is the fuel tax. It amounts to about $300,000 per year. And the other is the state apportionment that we get from the state taxes, state highway taxes. And that's about it as far as what our income that we get to fix our streets. We heard the loud and clear from the community that the roads are a big issue. So we convened an ad hoc street finance committee, and we had a strong citizen component, including a road contractor, and met multiple times 2 summers ago, 9 meetings total. We examined all this data, and we brainstormed and got all kind of input on every possible funding mechanism that we could employ. We know people are not wanting to pay more than they have to, so we selected 2 methods that we thought might pass the voters. We could have said outright, the council could have said, we can invoke a payroll tax. We could have done that on our own, but we thought that might not be very popular. And so we chose not to. So we selected a bond measure, 50 cents per thousand of assessed value. I worked it out for my house and it would have been around $70, so about $5.50 a month. I thought that was a reasonable contribution to make to the roads. And then the fuel tax was to add an additional 6 cents onto the current 3 cents fuel tax. So the fuel tax generates that 300,000 in Cottage Grove. And with an additional 6 cents, then we would have been looking at about 900,000 per year. So we put those to the voters, and I was rather surprised that we didn't just say, okay, what do you think about this? No, we went, did town hall, went to all the civic groups, Chamber of Commerce, radio, newspaper articles explaining, and primarily using the citizen members to carry the water. So we didn't, this is these are your colleagues speaking. Anyway, it was voted down 75 to 25. So I guess roads aren't that important to Cottage Grove people. I don't know, or at least if you have to pay for them. So that brings us to other measures. So one way we could do the gap is increase revenues somehow. And in this culture right now of uncertainty, bonds are not a guarantee. So I'm not sure what to say about that, but we're looking for any ways that we can increase revenues. That will also mean that we have to look to how to reduce expenditures, and they've done a hiring freeze, they've eliminated positions and other efforts to close that gap. I want to talk about the enterprise funds, and that is the utility bills, commonly and misidentified as a water bill. That's something Cottage Grovers like to talk about. It is, I think, reasonable, because when I moved here, I knew what I was getting into. The first house I looked at, they told me what to expect on the utility bill, and I said, that seems about right to me. But anyway, the actual water portion on my bill right now is $31. So it's not a water bill. It's partly water. The main cost is treating the water after it's been dirty, and the improvement funds. So the improvement funds put away money for reserves and also pay back debt for improvements we've done in the past. The clarifier, in my time in the city council, the clarifier failed. That was 3.2 million. And one of the big backup generator at the water treatment plant failed, and that was about 280,000, I think. So anyway, those reserve funds that we had the money to pay for that. So a little bit of the money goes into reserve for future expansion. The SDC funds also, if we're going to expand, if you're going to increase your population by increased housing or development, they pay into the system development charges and set aside money for that. So anyway, the whole goal of the utility system is not to make money, it's to break even. And people go, why does it keep going up? Same reason everything else goes up. Cost increase, power, chemicals, labor, etc. So as the costs increase, if we do not raise the rates, we will go into the red further than we are. Yes. Fair enough. So But I think I can state that it's, the idea is that it breaks even. So the idea is it breaks even, not making money or losing money. So that's the goal there. Lastly, there's 4 factors that go into the utilities. That's decay, growth, regulation, and inflation. And that all puts pressure on the system. The more you increase, you have to expand the system. Inflation, increased costs, pipes break and have to be replaced, and regulation makes it more difficult. Yes. For the development, yes. So there was a feeling that it was very much needed for housing. So that would be a good thing to.
We're gonna hold the questions till Dana gets through this real quick. Okay, and then when you guys speak, we're gonna pass you the microphone because online they cannot hear you.
Just a quick hit the charts. I'll just hit the charts and then we can get into the meat of it. So revenues, as I pointed out, our property taxes is this little bit of red. Our beginning fund balance, these are all the funds that are held in different reserve funds or money that's been designated towards specific projects. This is your utility fees, this large block over here, the green chunk. So those are the fees collected plus the other from the permits and any other fees from the city. Federal and state funds, the green, and lots of other little itty bitty pieces. This last one here is transfers from various funds. So like if you need money to move from one to the other to pay for things from the reserve fund to pay for the clarifier, that is the transfers, and to pay for debt service and other things. Then there's our requirements. So this is where the money has to go. If you follow the chart, it starts, the top is on the left and it works around counterclockwise. So one of our largest expense is personnel. And, people say, well, that's a lot of money, but you want a good team in place when you have things like ice storms and other things, or the 8-inch water main blows. You want to have good people and you want the top quality law enforcement you can get. So it's a big cost, but it takes a village. Materials and service, capital outlays or projects. So a lot of that yellow is our Project Sparrow and our EDA. Debt service, that's money that we've had to borrow to pay for things. And ending fund balance, contingency, and we currently have no special payments. That's a 0, so it didn't show up. Let's take a look at the general fund. That's your dollar bill. So this is the general fund is things that, and you have the individual funds. I'm sorry, there was a couple of typos in there, but the bottom numbers are good. I double checked those. So administration covers the finance, the city hall, the city manager's office, and engineering. Public safety is our police operations. It does not include police communications. That's in a separate fund. And Public Works is mainly, again, not the utility fee, not the utility workers. Those are under the enterprise funds. Our library internal support has a lot of moving parts. Those are all the, where I lost my notes. Can you hand me one of those little dollar bills for, oh, thank you. Got it. So yes, material services transfers to the SDC funds, contingency, and unappropriated fund balance. So this is just the general fund. And then we have the enterprise funds. We have the reserve funds that are holding money for future things, the contingency funds, and the debt service funds. So it's a big, huge document. It's got a lot of different funds. And by law, you can't move money around without documenting. I know there's a misconception. People think that much money somehow magically moves around, but we have to sign off on many things as a council, and all has to be documented. So I think that I'm done with that.
All right. Appearance of interested citizens. Individual speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer, provide their name, identify whether they are city resident, and if so, their ward. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less with council approval. The council will not make any decisions based in public comment. However, staff and council may choose to ask questions or comment following the conclusion of the citizens' comments. And I want to go ahead and encourage staff to jump in on helping the community understand as well. So. Bruce Kelch. And Bruce, I can bring the mic to you. Pass the mic.
Bruce Kelch, I live in Halderman Road in Cottage Grove. One of the things I want to say to the council members that are going to be wrestling with the budget is that, I empathize with your task. When I was a principal at Bohemia, we had to riff a whole bunch of teachers. Very painful process. We know what it's like when you're dealing with a tight budget. But as I was thinking about these things, I was also thinking your task at the moment really is to look at balancing out with what you have and trying to decide where the priorities and what is for the common good in the community. I'm with Friends of the Library, so obviously I'm going to advocate for Friends of the Library, and I'm going to advocate for the library, just as the swimming pool people advocate for the swimming pool, and pickleball people want pickleball courts, and that's the way it works, right? Everybody's going to advocate for what's important to them. But your task is to look beyond that and look at everybody's needs and say, I mean, I go to the parks, I may not take grandkids there, but I know that some people do. I don't go to the library, but I know that kids and families and old people go there because they can, and they get some things out of it they wouldn't have otherwise. But they don't have the resources to fill their home with books, like some families and communities members do. So I can take my kids to story time. I can check out books every week. I can, if I'm an elder person, I need a big, large print version of books, and I don't have the money to go out and buy a bunch of books, I can do that in the library. The library card gives you tremendous freedom to learn all kinds of things and have access to it. And I know that you know these things, and I know that you're going to balance all these things out. But I want to take to Councilor Urban's point, at one point, when you're talking about, this isn't the library versus the police. This is, we're going to look at everything in the budget to try and balance things out. And as you do that, look at the common good, but also know that the library serves a huge function in the community. It's the heart of a community of readers and people to participate. It's a safe refuge. All kinds of people go to the library, take advantage, what you provide as a community service in the way that the city provides parks, that you provide recreational spaces, and that you provide an opportunity to improve the quality of life. And to Joanna Z's point, this is a community that doesn't have lots of funds. So public institutions like the library provide access to all the people, whether you have the funds or not. You can go to the library, even if you don't have lots of money. You can go to the parks, and the city provides those. So I think the library serves a particular niche, and it's a value. And when people come looking for a place to live or move to, they go to the library. They check it out. They see it's one of the pluses in our community that determines the quality of life, and the city has supported that in such a way that all of us can benefit from it. Thank you.
Trisha Chapman? Is she online? Oh, right here.
My name is Trisha. My name is Trisha Chapman, and I have lived here in Cottage Grove for 23 years. I live on Fairview Loop. I'm not sure what ward that is, sir. I have valued our public library from the time we moved here. I love to read, and I passed that love of reading on to my two children. We always came to the library to check out books and participate in the different summer reading programs and other programs that the library brought here. The library serves our community in many ways as a place for students to use computers for homework if they don't have them at home, as a safe place of quiet respite from the elements for people who may not have a safe place at home, as a place to get kids excited about new books and authors, to expose our town to different exhibits from different places around the country. Families come and enjoy story times, Lego Club, and other programs that the library has. And I really hope that we will choose to fully fund our library. I know this is a tough budget situation, but it does serve our community in so many ways. And not just the citizens of Cottage Grove, but our surrounding communities as well can benefit from this important resource. Thank you.
Joyce Settlemyer?
Hello. I thought I was going to get to sit down, but I guess I'm standing up. So at the I'm going to read it, but that way I'll remember to say what I wanted to say. At the previous budget meetings, you heard how vital the pool is to our community, and we had over 75 people at one of your meetings here to show support. And we wanted to show how the pool is important to our community's physical, mental, social, and social health. The pool is part of a web that keeps us all safe, healthy, and thriving. That web includes our businesses, our police, fire, EMTs, our places of worship, our healthcare providers, those who look after the most vulnerable of our community, like Community Sharing and the Humane Society. I didn't know I'd be this emotional. Our library is another big one. You heard some great reasons, previous people talking. Our teachers and schools, our service clubs like the Elks, Lions, Rotary, Kiwanis, donors like the Woodard Family Foundation, and those who, like you on the council, dedicate yourselves to serving the people of Cottage Grove. So I would like to present over 735 signatures that we collected that were supporting the pool. I know you've heard enough about the pool, but that's part of why I wanted to use this as a formal. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to. Do you want me to read it again? Do you hear enough of it? Okay. So I'm presenting 735 signatures that were collected from people in the community to support our pool. And I'd like to present it as a thank you letter to the council. It's a group letter to the city council in support of the Warren Doherty Aquatic Center. We know you already voted unanimously continue the $75,000 support in funding for the pool. So please consider this as a thank you from all those people who signed the letter. As a group, we look forward to continue our support of the pool. And I would like to thank you for presenting this town hall meeting. I appreciate the council and staff's efforts to listen and hear people's concern. I look forward to improving these town hall meetings to allow us to continue improving our web of a healthy community. Thank you.
Samantha Duncan. Circle back. And
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having this town council for us. It's really a good thing for all of us to just feel like that you're waiting to hear from us. So thank you. I'm here to talk about the library. And I'm just going to speak from my heart. I'm from Eugene. I've been here in Cottage Grove now. I love this town. Been here for 20 years and I live just 7 blocks up 2nd Street. And I go to the library regularly. I raised my children, 5 children, going to the library every single week, and they all had their own book bags and they all had their own cards. And it was just a huge formation in my children's lives. And I watch families come in and go out of our library here, and the computer's always in use, and the ukulele group on Thursday or Tuesday mornings. And it's just so well used. And in the wintertime and in the summertime, when the weather is poor, the people who don't have a place to be or just need to be cooler, it's a resource. It's a safety place for them. And it's just really important that it's open during the days for them. Now, as a grandmother and as a integrated, I think, member of this community, I go to the library at least twice or 3 times a month and get my stack of books. And I'm a member of a book club here, and I'm a member of the Friends of the Library. And it's just really important to see the heart of our community, which is education and resources, and just that welcome, that all are welcome to a place that we can all go to every single day. It's just very important for our community to feel that, because I have felt it here. This town is so small, and we need that place that we can go to. And our staff here is just really wonderful. Natasha and all of the people there are just so helpful with whatever question I have, or if I have a need for a book, they'll just always go the extra mile to get whatever book that I need, or to teach me about the online services, which I had no idea about. So I just hope you consider just fully funding our library. It's just, I think, just a really important piece of this wonderful little community that we have here. Thank you.
Deborah Monsef.
I want to also thank you all for offering this opportunity for the public to speak more intimately than just at the council meeting. I too am here to talk about the library. Yes, I live out of town, 77500 South 6th Street, and I do pay for a library card. My husband and I both use the library, but what I want to talk about is some history. 75 years ago in July will be the opening of the Woodard Memorial Library in the Woodard Building. And what the Sentinel wrote about WA's speech in July of 1950, there's a part of it where they say he's a very practical, hard-headed man, and he's given the Cottage Grove Library the first real home it ever had. He has given it to be used. It isn't a luxury. A town which tries to skimp on its library is like a man who tries to get along without shoes. The best proof of that was the kid who scooted under the line Saturday to be the first to draw out the book, Gulliver's Travels. You know, way back then, it took 12 years to raise the money and to fulfill the vision of Walter and Duty Woodard. And it's up to all of us not to let WA and Duty Woodard down for all their hard work and dedication they have done for our community throughout their lives. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had our first hospital. We wouldn't have had the library. We wouldn't have had the community center without Casey Woodard and his father's vision. And where did she go? And your vision. Thank you. So I just want to encourage you and say that we've all benefited from those who've walked these streets before us. I was born here. And, you know, we need to carry on that tradition and the value of our wonderful library. And I encourage you to fully fund it as well. Thank you.
Amy Merryday.
Amy Merryday, 205 Adams. So usually taxpayers, they want to know what are they getting for what they're paying, you know, what are they paying, what are they getting for what they pay for? And when you go to a lot of city council meetings, you realize a lot of people have no idea what the city actually does. And so I'm just going to ask that we make an effort to, because personnel is the big part of our budget, as we heard, that we get to know more of the people that we are paying, and that we know more about what they do, because that is what we're paying for. So I'm going to ask you tonight for individual budgets from the departments. I want more information. I spend time at the library, and I know that the people there spend a tremendous amount of time training the elderly how to use the computers, training people without computers at home, how to use the computers, how they set up an email for many people. You cannot apply for a job unless you have an email account. This is what the people at the library do. I happen to know that because I go to the library. What I have a question about tonight is from Faye, because I saw some of our city workers on River Road watering Haskell or one of the parks along the way. And they weren't in the road or anything, but they were using devices to turn the water on, and they didn't have safety vests on. And I worked at the University of California for decades, and we had the thing called PPE. So I want to be able to look at your budget and know how much training our staff are getting, and are we investing in them properly? This is what we're paying for, and we want more details. This is what transparency is when it comes to a government. I'd like to say that the city does make an effort for us to get to know our law enforcement, where we can have coffee with a cop, and those staff members are they're doing outreach, so they're happy to meet you, but these are the people that we're paying for, and I think we need to know what they really do, because I know a lot of people think the library is just a place to get books, but there's a lot more going on in that building. Thank you.
My name is Dylan. I'm in Ward 1. I was a little confused. I was told this was more going to be a question and answer, so I didn't have a speech ready so much. I'm wanting to speak about public safety. I agree about the library. I'm on a first name basis of the library. I go there a lot myself, but I'm looking at it. I'm familiar with the city's emergency plan. The library is a place that is planned to be used and has been used in the past when we've had disasters. With cuts to FEMA on the federal level, as well as opening up a lot of the parks and other natural areas to logging, our risk of wildfires is going to be increasing with a lot less ability to respond on a national level. So that's going to fall under the smaller towns. and the counties and the state itself. So I definitely would like to see that open because we're probably going to be needing it a lot more often. In addition, my kids come to me worried about going to school these days. While I don't encourage her watching the news, she sees it regularly through friends, social media, and other avenues. She's afraid to go to school because she's seen that people are being taken by ICE and other agents. She's seen that citizens are being, I'm not even going to call it deported because there's no due process and they're a US citizen, kidnapped out of the country. What do I tell her? What is this city going to do to make sure that she knows that she is okay, her friends are okay when she goes to school? And I'm noticing that there was one other issue I was going to bring up, but having heard about this, I'm going to talk to Chief Chase later about it. But we need to be able to respond as a community for all of the things that are happening. I'm a first responder. I know Mayor Soulsby's husband also is in that, is a first responder. And we need to figure out ways that we can respond to these emergencies that we're going to be facing, whether natural disasters, whether they're man-made or what have you. But what can we do as a community, and not just the citizens, but in the administration, the council, the department levels, to come together to meet these? We need to keep that in mind when we're looking at these budgets, because we're going to be going into more uncertain times until we can get these things taken care of. Thank you.
Samantha Duncan, are you there? If you want to read it. You can. Sorry.
This is technologies. Yeah. See my paper, hear my voice. This is from Samantha Duncan. She's with Friends of the Library, and she's the treasurer of that. She's also very active in the community. She's lives in the Yoncalla area, so I'm speaking on her behalf. This is a letter that she sent to the mayor and councilors. I'm ready to express my thanks to you all for continuing to support the Cottage Grove Public Library in a sustainable manner. As a librarian in Drain and a longtime friend of the Cottage Grove Library, I have seen firsthand the many benefits that a public library brings to a community. Libraries are safe and welcoming environments for all people of all ages. They are often the first building that people will seek out when they move to a community. It's a great place to meet new people and to learn more about the city and the surrounding areas. Libraries provide free programs, information, and resources like computer and internet access, quiet study or meeting spaces, and a wide variety of materials to check out in multiple formats. It's always a joy for me to be able to say, yes, we can help you with that, and see the relief on the face of a patron who needs to print a time card, legal or tax form, or other documents, but doesn't have a printer at home. Likewise, it's a great experience to follow the path to literacy and reading for families with infants and toddlers as they bring new books to the desk each week. Always excited to tell or show me what they read about. It's a privilege to offer a comfortable, dry, climate-controlled spot for someone who needs it, and to share with them resources for housing, food, or other available services if they ask. I hope that you will continue to support a robust budget for the library into the future. It's an invaluable resource, and we are lucky to have such a treasure that everyone can share. Thank you. Samantha Duncan, owner of the Health Hub.
All right. One of the issues that I think a lot of us on council have had is when COVID hit, we started a sign-up sheet for our city council. And I think that's a good possibility we may be revisiting that. Because what I find is a lot of times people will speak and then a question will pop into your head after someone else brought up a topic. And sometimes it's nice to have the opportunity to elaborate on it, or if you have a differing opinion, it would be nice to be able to offer that. And so with that, we've went through everyone that's signed up tonight, but is there anyone else that would wish to speak on behalf of anything that you've heard tonight or, okay. All right.
My name is Joe Magner. I live on the Cottage Grove Hotel, Main Street. One of the things I have not heard mentioned very much is how important the library is for meeting spaces. The meeting spaces of being able to pull together and have a thing for the common community to be able to come. The Shepherd's Room, I know that I've run into AA that meets at the library and stuff. I think those things are very, very important. I've been to several meetings, but people have not mentioned the meeting space very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? No? Comments from counselors?
Counselor Lammerman, most of you know me if you've been. That one. Counselor Lammerman, most of you guys know me. So a lot of concerns have come up about the budget, and I just want to express I was not a fan of the budget process. I felt it was very rushed. There should have been a little bit more clarity on some items. There's a huge portion of that, like you've heard, that is personnel. I get that a lot of it is contracts and wage negotiations and PERS and all that. But we pay an astronomical amount of money to a lot of individuals that work for the city. It's not for me to say whether or not it's fair to pay them that much, because that's not my job. There's some ideas brought up about a possible fee for local residents for library cards. Even if it was something like we just thrown out a random number like $5 a year, based off of the amount of people that utilize the library. Rough sum was like an additional $8,000 roughly, and it seemed like that was not a good idea, or $8,000 was just a drop in the bucket, but it adds up. I wasn't a fan of approving the budget due to the fact that we didn't have an audit for the last 2 years. It's still waiting to be negotiated and approved and all that. So if you guys have any questions on any of that, feel free to ask. This is basically now the time where we can kind of put that whole agenda stuff aside and talk to you guys directly, which is what we wanted. So feel free.
I'm just really pleased that people showed up with something that we thought would look a little more like a town hall, but you guys got a chance to talk. We get a chance to go and share things. The idea of transparency is kind of like a two-way street. And we really, really want you to feel like the street goes both ways. I hope the next time we do something that we call a town hall, that it's in Bohemia Park. I just think that that would better demonstrate what this council envisions they want to open up for you. We went out thinking this town hall thing is common, and look for town hall meetings anywhere in the state statutes. I haven't found it yet. When people talk about town halls, there's like a couple of counselors at the most that get together, and then you don't have to follow any meeting rules. You can do it wherever you want. So we brought up the idea of town hall, and everybody said yay. And it was just, it was really amazing. So thanks for coming. I hope this is just the first time we get together. I know it doesn't solve everything, but it gives, I hope, everybody an opportunity to feel like Cottage Grove is their home and we're in this together. So thanks for coming.
Well, following up on that, I wanted to just share how I'm approaching the budget this year, in the hopes that by sharing that, if there are ideas or things that you perceive that I'm missing in my assessment, that I'd like to hear those to add to my considerations. I think the bottom line for me is, while the state law allows you to have your revenue minus expense plus what you carried over from the previous year as what equates to a balanced budget, I don't think that's how we should run the city, because it's, especially when we're dipping into that carryover each year, because it's just the trajectory is to run out of money and not have any contingency and then not be able to balance your budget. So I look at it and say, brass tacks, we need to right the ship, consider a balanced budget to be revenues minus expenses. That's the balanced budget. And that we target setting aside, I would like to see somewhere around 6 months worth of operations costs set aside for that emergency situation. Essentially, you have a carryover to be able to float operations until you get your next tax allotment. And so it is a vital aspect of the budget. Contingency, similar situations. I mean, we've got a lot of emergencies to some of the points that were raised today. I think we should be bolstering that contingency fund. Exactly what the policy ought to be, I think I'd love to have that and hash that out with the council. I feel like I'm a little more fiscally conservative, so I think we should have probably more than we may end up with, but we need to be able to weather some fairly significant challenges, whatever they present. We may not even be able to imagine what they are at the moment. But that's the trajectory I want to advocate for, where I'm at right now. And I know that means that you can't pay for everything. So there will have to be some cuts, but I also look at it as a time of opportunity, because I find in my own life, when we have constraints, we get creative. It forces me to think in ways that I haven't been forced to think before. And it's actually kind of an adventure. And so I like the idea of not mandating too much from the council, but setting a good policy and trusting those who are tasked with, executing the operations to do so. But I want to also have more of this, more of what I would consider a legitimate town hall where we are here to hear from you. And so I do also, I saw a lot of shaking hands, holding mics. I want to appreciate anybody who has spoken. Know that it is really valued to receive that kind of feedback. We don't get it. We all live in somewhat of our own bubbles. And so it's really great to hear a cross section of the community and what the concerns are and to factor that in. And I would encourage anybody that was thinking about it for the next time to do that. And we'll do our best to facilitate more natural conversation as well. But I appreciate that. Bruce?
I also want to add just one thing, Bruce, is we also have no problem staying around after our meetings. We are always there to talk with you guys one-on-one. If you ever have a concern or a question, please. We all have different views, and if you just want to find out where we stand with something, please come up and speak to us. We're always there for you.
I do want to make an observation about the town hall format, and that is not everybody's represented. And that's going to be one of the challenges for the council is, I didn't hear anybody talking about the police here tonight. And I think that should have happened as part of their, when Chief Chase says the police department's running on fumes, you heard that in the budget committee, but not everybody else heard that. And so I think that you've got to come up with a format somehow that targets groups or make sure that you include a wide range of people so you get more views. Maybe you have counselors with coffee, 2 of you at once because you can't have 3, right? That's against the law. So you could have, what the magic number is. Yeah, can't have 4. All right. So you could do something like that and then try and find different places in the community or something so that you can get those different views. You can hear people's concerned about policing, you can hear people talk about, I'm really glad our water is so good. It's meeting national standards, those kinds of things. So you hear positives and all the things that go with it. But I think you got to just find a different format that tries to include people. And there's a good start. Appreciate the council doing a lot for all the community members that are here, and appreciate your time. Keep doing it. Yeah, thanks.
So technically, the reason we set the agenda item as the budget was because that, in my understanding, anything the city spends even a penny on is open for discussion. So be that public safety, the library, the pool, whichever. We kind of wanted to make it a little broad. So anyone and everyone who wanted to come down and speak had the opportunity, and they weren't limited to one certain topic. That's why we set it as the budget. That maybe that could have been put out a little bit better online or whichever, so that way people understood they had that opportunity to speak about anything. So that could have been our fault.
I think your point's well taken. I think if people don't know that that's what the opportunity is there for, and I think, as you look at both locally and nationally, people aren't participating in politics, government, and that's a huge issue. When I'm always appalled at our voter turnout. Having lived in countries where people would die literally for the right to vote, they'd stand in line for days for the right to vote, and we don't even return the mail. That's a tragedy to me. So I think that how do you get people to feel that their engagement makes a difference? I think that's what you're saying is how do they know that they can participate and it does make a difference and you do listen, and it does make a difference. And so, I've advocated for raising police salaries because it's obviously you're not going to be able to attract and retain people if the salaries aren't adequate. Where's the money coming from? It's a different story. And I think you're looking at short-term issues right now because you got to balance the budget and for sure you got to do that. But in talking to your city manager, Mike Sauerwein, he and I have talked about, even briefly, that there's got to be a need for both the police and the library for long-term funding, so there's some stability there and frees up other things that the city needs for budgeting. We got to figure out what that looks like. And I think, you know, especially when your police department's running on fumes, it's not a good thing to say or feel like, you know, but because public safety is incredibly important. So got to do that, but get the word out, I think, let people know that it does make a difference and they should participate.
Thanks.
That don't know me, I'm Daryl Wilson, at large. And large, but you know, at large is a title. Anyway, what? On the run, yeah, at large, yeah. Anyway, to kind of dovetail on something that was brought up as far as Councilor Irvin was talking about with the carryover. Most don't, you know, because we're on a fiscal year. The budget starts July 1st, but a lot of the revenue doesn't get here until the end of the year. So there has to be some carryover in order to pay the bills, basically. The good folks that do work in the city kind of like their paycheck. So there has to be some carryover that way. There has been an enormous amount of work in the background by city staff in restructuring many departments, many services within the city to cut costs. And I do want to applaud Mike and the various other staff members that have done a lot of work in the background to try to free up money. The police services over the last few years has been a major task of rebuilding the police department. It was severely basically brought down to almost nothing. We almost didn't have a police department at all. And there's been a lot of work that has been put into that effort. It's nearing full staff. If everybody gets through all of their training that's currently in the pipeline, it's going to be really close. One of the things that is a goal that as part of the city council, I do advise to the school board as well. And one of the goals of the school board is to have a resource officer, which will help alleviate some of the concerns that a lot of the parents have with sending their kids to school, that there's somebody there that can respond if something happens. The school board has vowed to pay for part of that particular officer, but there has to be an officer to pay for. And there has to be a vehicle for them to get over there in. So there's different aspects of that come into play as far as all of the moving parts to make all that happen. It is definitely a goal that we're working towards. There are ideas out there that I was and a couple of our council members were at a really cool event that happened at the high school, and that was juniors that were participating in civics class, and they had to pick subjects that affected the city, and they had to come up with what's the problem. I mean, is there a problem that's affecting the city? What are the policies that are currently, adapted with those problems? What are alternative ideas on how to handle the problem? What are their particular ideas, and what is their action plan for implementing it? There were some great ideas that came out of those things. I know Councilman Settlemyer and Meriday and myself were part of a group of citizens and teachers that were over there listening to it. I think I listened to 18 different presentations just on Monday. And it also happened yesterday as well. There was some great ideas that came out of that. And I think that's a testament to the young people that are coming into being voting age, that they're paying attention. A lot of them are, and they have some ideas out there that as a council we need to pay attention to. Thank you.
Okay, he brought up the school, and I want to invite you to something a week from tonight. It's the first concert in the park. And before the first concert in the park, the CTE, which means Career Technical Education classes from Cottage Grove High School and Al Kennedy, are there to kind of celebrate what they've got going. So, you know, that thing that we tried to do in Bohemia Park, go enjoy the venue and make sure to celebrate something what the youth of our community is doing. And since I'm talking about that, I'll brag about another group of youth. If you've ever heard of the Key Club at the high school, they just finished a year. It's a service organization that they have, and they logged over 500 hours of community service this year. There were more than 50 kids that signed up for a club that was trying to do community service. And we didn't give them credit for coming to the meetings. Any of the hours they got credit for was an outreach. And the kids are doing great things. Thank you, those of you that are relatives of those kids. Keep up your excellent work. It takes a group, a village.
So I want to end on kind of an exciting note that I have not formally announced to Cottage Grove yet. And it's something that is dear to my heart, and I'm really excited about it. If you haven't heard about the Wall Dogs, they are a group of over 300 worldwide artists. And they call them Wall Dogs because they're muralists, incredibly talented. And they call them Wall Dogs because they hang from walls and they work like dogs. And they choose one city in the United States per year to come to. There's only been 2 on the West Coast that they have chosen, and all the rest are back east. And they come to your city and they do a citywide takeover, and they paint up to 15 murals in 4 days. And they are so impressive. And the one city in Oregon that has had it happen is the city of the Dalles. And I've gotten to know the mayor there and the city manager, and we've talked extensively. And they say that it brings in millions of dollars every year in tourism. So I spoke with the leads of the Wall Dogs, and they are so excited that we are formally, as of 2 weeks ago, on the calendar for 2027. And how this works is the community hosts the Wall Dogs. So a lot of the younger artists will be looking for places to stay within homes in the community. The community feeds them. We'll go out and get in-kind donations, scaffolding, get the paint donated, but the artists essentially work for free because they go to a different city every year. This is their reunion, their family reunion, and they are an incredible group. And Cottage Grove is so lucky to have gotten them, and they're really excited about our Hollywood history. They're really excited about our gold mining history. We've got Indian tribes here. We have such a wealth of things that they can paint on our walls. And so we will be going out into the community and searching for good placement. I would love to see it spread all throughout Cottage Grove, not just in the downtown, because we can do mural tours after this. There's just so much that we can do. And the reason why I was really pushing for 2027 is because we have our Animal House 50th anniversary coming up, which is technically, it was released in 1978, but the filming in Cottage Grove was in 77. And so, and I figured it would be better to do it in 2027, because in 2028, I'm sure we will be competing with Universal Studios for any of the remaining stars and the musicians to come back to our city. And we've already started talks with the musicians, and it's looking like they are wanting to come back to Cottage Grove. And so I can just picture it, muralists up there in their togas painting, and this big combined party bigger than Cottage Grove has ever seen. And so, you know, bringing in food trucks. And I mean, I just can see such a great time. And the lead, Jay, from the Wild Dog, said that he is feeling like he's probably going to have to limit registration for the dogs because they're all going to want to come. So yeah, I'm really excited. It's great news for us.
Many of you in this room donated for the goose mural that's going to be painted in Bohemia Park. And I just want to say that Heather is going to be starting within the next 2 weeks. And I'm really excited for this project. It's going to bring the goose back to Cottage Grove in the form of a mural, because we lost the blue goose. So thank you.
Yes, I'm a bummer. I came here to talk about the budget. And I'm kind of concerned because our counselor Irvin said that we have to cut. And my understanding is there's a gap that needs to be resolved. And I would be upset if you really are saying that you are not willing to look at increased revenue. And when we talk about new ideas and soliciting information from the city, I'll tell you right now that there is selective enforcement in parking in our town. I know this, and so does Public Works, because when they send the street sweepers around, there's clearly cars in front of people's houses that have been there for long enough for debris to accumulate. And because the people own the car, own the home, there is no ticketing. And so that's fine. But if those people want to leave their car, I suggest they pay a fee. And I'll be damned if I'm going to pay for a library card while those people are parking for free in public space that we could be charging for. So we need to come up with ways to increase revenue, not cut. We're moving forward. We're going to have a future. We're not going to cut down every tree. We're not going to destroy all the air and all the water. We're moving on. And so I'm from New York, and I say here tonight, raise my taxes.
All right.
Yes. Well, I was willing to pay for the roads, so anyway. But I wanted to come back to Mr. Gangle. You asked about it's called the multiple unit property tax exemption, commonly known as the MUPT, and it was given for 3 apartment complexes. One is the Harrison apartment One is the one that's being built, the Pine Ridge at the Village Green site, and one was awarded to the Gateway Apartments, which they are not actually receiving because they have not completed their job. So what the multiple unit property tax exemption says is that in the need for housing is encouragement to the developers. You can waive the tax on the improvements. They're still paying the property tax for the ground, the raw property. You're just not paying the improvements for up to 10 years. The council has quite a bit of leeway about what to grant. They could say, oh, we'll give it to you for 3 years. We'll give it to you for 6 years. The three were issued under a very limited requirements. They had to give one public benefit. And from a list, you could put in a laundry room, for instance. And I was saying like, well, that's not a public benefit. That's a tenant amenity. So, but anyway, it was very loose. So that's been tightened up. The council rewrote it. I thought that there should be some provision that gives some actual tax break for, if you're going to get a tax break, you should also have some affordable housing connected to the units. But that was the odd person out on that. And so anyway, we did give the tax exemption to those three developments because there was a critical need for housing. And that was the primary concern about the awarding it, is that we didn't have any housing available. People were needing housing. It's not cheap. Those are market rate apartments. That's why I thought it was like, if you're giving a tax break and people having to pay full bore, what's the public benefit? You get to pay for a high, $1,500 for an apartment. That's money down the tubes, in my opinion. But anyway, people are paying that for some of those apartments, and it's not low income by any means. And so anyway, that's the state, multiple use tax, the exemption for those units. And after the exemption expires after 10 years, then it goes onto the tax roll full bore. So the argument was that without giving the developer this break, they wouldn't build it and we wouldn't get housing. So that was the rationale. Yes.
The owners of these developments don't even live in our city, but they're getting a tax break. I think that's a little bit wrong. You're giving rich people a tax break and making, like myself, disabled senior citizen, you're increasing my taxes. That's not right.
Well, we did tighten it up some. So for the next time we need to consider that option. But I don't know of anyone that's applied for it or is seeking that.
Well, I happened to be there when we passed this, so I can share my rationale, which is different than it is now. Under the conditions, what was presented was the situation where developers left the state after the crash in 2008. There was very few builders, even that could restock the housing. We'd grown in population. You had a less than 1% occupant or a vacancy rate. So you couldn't find a rental. You couldn't find housing. And so we had this pressure that was in part driving up rents. Now, I think there's so much demand that no matter how much we build, you're going to see those rates. So that's kind of where I've shifted on this. But under that backdrop, and with a housing needs analysis that charted out over the next 20 years how many of each type of different housing unit is needed, we targeted the multi-unit first. Well, middle housing and more of the, I don't know if you call higher end, but family working housing. we're not ones that got specific target. So, you know, this would be a council decision, but I'm of the mind to relook at the MUPD and say, where are we in terms of the housing units developed and what we've needed? And let's look at strategies to take target middle housing and other, you know, housing that, to Mrs. Merriday's point, drives up revenue. Because when you build new, you're not stuck in the 90s on your taxable income. You bring yourself right back up to current day, and that could have a huge effect on raising revenue. So yeah, you don't dig yourself out of a problem by cutting, you build revenue. That's how you get yourself out of a hole. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. And that's part of what I meant by being creative, doing things different than we've been doing them, and looking at each aspect. So hopefully that addresses it. That was a knob or a dial that could be turned. We turned it, and I advocated turn it all the way, make it work as much as it's intended to build housing. Housing got built, and now it behooves us, I think, to look at where we are and maybe dial that back, and look at other strategies. So thank you for that comment.
Anyone else? Counselor.
Okay. Along the lines of the housing for working class families, single residents, there is a project that is currently happening, known as Project Sparrow, on the south end of town. I'm not sure what the exact number of plotted lots are. We have around 150 plus, 150 to, plotted areas for new housing that is currently in process. There's also some industrial land that we're still, I think, out for. I think there's some competition happening there for a new employer coming into the area that will having some family wage jobs into the area. So that's an exciting development that's happening. So there is some looking positivity in the future when it comes to revenue increases. That is something that we're definitely looking at as a council, and it's not just taking a hatchet to everything. It's looking at different revenue sources in which how we can attract businesses into the area, how we can utilize space that is currently not being used to increase basically dirt for developers to develop on and bring other businesses in that offer family wage type jobs. If you bring in an employer, they have to have a place for the employees to live. So if you're bringing in an employer that's going to, employ 100 people, 75 to 100 people, those are families that are coming in. They need a place to live. So that is definitely something that we're looking at, family wage type of housing, as well as the upper end, because you've got business owners that, they want to live in someplace nice. And so we're looking at that end of the housing market as well. Letting you know, it's definitely stuff we're looking at.
Well, I think that this town hall was productive, and I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and hope you'll tell your friends and that we can do this again soon. Yes. So this meeting is officially adjourned.